Chapter 13 Trouble with Flowers. It's the night of the holiday concert, when we sing about Santa and dreidels and Kwanzaa. The best part is getting a new dress. I stand in front of a mirror looking at my dress and my first shoes with a heel on them, thinking about the shopping day I had with Mom. We even went to A.C. Peterson's for lunch. I liked how she stayed with me in a booth instead of having to go wait on other people. I love to sing, but I don't like our music teacher, Mrs. Muldoon. Max calls her Minefield Muldoon because you never can tell when she'll blow up over something. Oliver calls her that too, but he acts it out by leaping into the air and yelling, "Muldoon!" as he lands on the floor and rolls. He doesn't stop though. He goes from a roll right to his feet again, like a cat in a cartoon. Shay is making fun of Albert because his clothes don't fit. "What's with the pants, Albert?" she says. "Did you get that outfit in the 3rd grade?" Keisha whips around fast. "Why do you always try to pull people down?" she asks. "Because some people deserve it, that's why," Shay answers. "Deserve to be pulled down? Really?" Keisha asks. Albert straightens his tie, which is the only part of his outfit that fits. He's even wearing his sneakers with the backs cut out. "You know," he says, "logically, if a person was to pull another down, it would mean that he or she is already below that person." Keisha lets out a laugh so loud that Mrs. Muldoon shoots her a look. Keisha covers her mouth and tries to squelch the sound. "That is perfect, Albert. Man, you really are a smart dude." She turns to Shay. "You, on the other hand, are so low you could play tennis against a curb." Shay's eyes narrow, but before she can say anything, Mrs. Muldoon appears and tells us to line up. For the spring concert last year, before I had a growth spurt, I had to stand in the front row. I liked when Travis called me a dime among pennies, but this year, I get to stand toward the back of the line, with the taller kids, right next to Keisha. I look over at her. I love how she stuck up for Albert. She had the guts that I didn't in the cafeteria. I wish I could be braver. We all stand, waiting to file into the auditorium. "Oh, Mrs. Muldoon, I love your dress," Shay says. Mrs. Muldoon lights up like a bulb. "Why, thank you, Shay. Your parents have raised such a nice young lady." "Oh, thank you very much, Mrs. Muldoon." Shay smiles, but when she turns away toward Jessica, she rolls her eyes, and she keeps glaring at Keisha. I decide I won't think about how mad she makes me, and I'll think instead about how all the girls get to carry a bouquet of flowers. That's the good news. The bad news is that they have been donated by Jessica's father, the florist. It's nice of him, but Jessica hasn't stopped bragging about it. Mrs. Muldoon walks down the line, handing out the most beautiful bouquets I have ever seen. Like the ones that brides carry. Dark red ribbons that wind around the stems like a barbershop light pole. Ribbons dangle from the bottom, too. She hands my bunch to me, and I smile, thinking of how much my mom will love to see me with them. Keisha leans in to smell them and runs her fingers over the tops of the flowers. Then one of the white buds falls off and bounces off the top of her shiny black shoe. Mrs. Muldoon is there in a second. "What do you think you're doing?" Mrs. Muldoon grabs the flowers from Keisha's hands. Keisha looks up. "No, please don't. I didn't mean... These flowers are a gift, and if that's how you're going to treat a gift, with a complete lack of respect and gratitude, then you, Keisha Almond, will be the only girl without flowers." "But Mrs. Muldoon," Keisha says, "I really didn't..." Mrs. Muldoon holds up her hand like she's stopping traffic. "I don't want to hear it. You will have no flowers, and perhaps you will remember in the future how a lady behaves." "See," Shay says to Jessica, "people do get what they deserve." I stand behind Keisha, but I wish I could see her face. I wait for her to say something back, but Keisha doesn't say anything. Although I can't see her cry, I hear her sniff and see her brush her cheek with her fingertips. And I watch a mind movie of me being the only girl without flowers, marching in to see all the parents, and the look on my mom's face. How she'd be the only sad parent in a sea of smiling ones, and how I'd feel like I was less than everyone else. No one should ever feel like that. I feel my fingertips dig into the center of my bouquet to separate the thick stems. It takes some twisting to work half of the flowers out of the fancy ribbon, but I put some muscle into it. Stems crack and leaves and petals fall, spinning in the air, landing all around my shiny new shoes. Mrs. Muldoon has turned around to stare. Her mouth is open wide enough for a bird to build a nest in. I hold her gaze as I hand half the flowers to Keisha. Well, she can have some of mine then. In the end, neither of us had flowers when we walked into the auditorium, but we had bigger smiles than anyone else. Chapter 14. Boxed in and boxed out. Okay, my Fantasticos. As you know, today is Fantastico Friday, and we are going to end our day with a challenge. I'm going to break you up into groups. Each group will be given a shoebox wrapped in elastic bands, which you will not remove, with a mystery object inside. Your job is to guess what the mystery object is. You can do anything to the box to figure it out except open it. There are 4 numbered boxes that will rotate from group to group. You have 10 minutes with each box, so be sure that you write down your guesses. At the end, we'll open them up and see what each object is. He claps once, loudly. Any questions? Everyone looks excited. Most glance around the room, probably hoping they will be with Albert. He'll get every answer right. But I end up in a group with Max, Suki, Oliver, and Jessica. I briefly consider going to the nurse, especially when I have to stare at all of Jessica's friendship bracelets. I wonder if each bracelet is from a different friend. I glance down at my empty wrist. Box number 1 is dropped on our table. Oliver grabs it and shakes it hard. Jessica folds her arms and rolls her eyes, her response to anything not done or said by Shay. I look across the room. Shay is in a group with Albert. She's holding the box and talking. What a surprise. Yeah, Max says, taking the box from Oliver. My turn. I'm surprised when Suki speaks up first. Oliver, we all need a turn, so we must plan. 10 minutes, and 5 of us. 2 minutes each. I think about the nurse again. I could lie on that comfortable bed and think. I've come up with some of my best sketchbook ideas pretending to be sick down there. Max has been shaking the box. He throws it into the air once and catches it. Whatever's inside is heavy, he says. Oliver says, maybe it's a kangaroo. Jessica looks at him with disgust. Oliver shrinks. I was just kidding, he mumbles. This makes me mad. Max hands it to Jessica, who gives it a little shake and says, I think it's a wooden block. Like maybe one of those alphabet blocks. When will it be my turn again? Oliver asks. Suki is taking some kind of notes of something. Looking up at the clock, she says, Oliver, you have 25 seconds of your time left only. Oliver takes the box back and sniffs it and tries to hear something by pressing his ear to the top. Mr. Daniels calls from the other side of the room. I love that, Oliver. Creative investigation. While I wait for my turn, I wonder why Oliver always smells like graham crackers. Finally, I get the box and put it up to my ear and tilt it. Whatever is inside rolls rather than slides. It must be round, and Max is right about it being heavy. I tilt it again with my palm on the side of the box. I think it's a baseball, I say, handing it to Jessica. She does the same test and surprises me by saying, I agree, feels like a baseball. Wait, I say, taking it back. I tilt it again quickly and the object hits the end hard and then lightly. It bounces, I say. Would a baseball bounce? I ask, turning to Max. Nah, I don't think so. Maybe it's rubber, like a lacrosse ball. After Suki tests the box, she writes down our answer. Then we get the second box. The second item slides rather than rolls. I can tell because it doesn't move if the box is tilted a little, but once tilted more, will move all at once. And I can feel it scraping along the bottom. It's weird, but I can almost see it. It's heavier than an alphabet block, but I think it is a shape with all flat sides. Oliver tells me that it's cool I'm so good at this. I forget to say thank you because I'm shocked. But then I also forget to be nervous, talking to everyone and feeling like I can do this as well as everyone else. And it is the best feeling ever. Suki hands me the box. Your turn to go first. The third box is harder, but I guess it's in the shape of a magic marker, but much bigger and heavier. as it slides one way and rolls the other. I glance over at Albert, who is listening to Shay talk again. Keisha is doing the talking in her group, but she's making everyone laugh. I wish I knew what they were saying. When Mr. Daniels delivers the fourth box, he stays. While Max tries to figure out what's inside, Jessica constantly compliments him on everything short of breathing. Max tells us that he thinks it's something light because it doesn't hit the sides hard. When it is his turn, Oliver looks up at Mr. Daniels. So, what do you think there, Oliver? I can see Oliver wants to be right. He tilts and shakes and decides it's a quarter. Mr. Daniels nods and pats him on the back. That's an excellent guess, Oliver. Well done. Am I right? Oliver asks. You'll have to wait and see. Mr. Daniels shrugs. Can't you just tell me now? Sorry, bud. Oliver seems disappointed. Then he looks up at me, holding out the box. He says, Here, Allie, you're the best at this. Jessica's face looks like if she let out all the pressure, she'd fly into the air like a rocket to the moon. Allie? Mr. Daniels asks. Huh? Sorry. Sometimes when I think, I forget to talk. He laughs a little. I hold the box in front of me with the long side almost touching my stomach. I tilt the box front to back and then side to side. This doesn't make sense. What are you thinking, Allie? He asks. Well, I begin. If I tilt it front to back, the object hits the long sides of the shoebox. But if I tilt it side to side, the object doesn't hit the short sides. In my mind, I see the object must be the size and shape of a magic wand, because it moves a lot when tilted in one direction, but not when tilted in the other. What? Oliver asks. It doesn't make sense, I say. I look down at the box and shake it side to side hard. I can't get the object to hit the sides of the box. The more I shake side to side, the more it hits the top and bottom of the box. Confusing. I look up at Mr. Daniels and his half smile and scrunched eyebrows. Wait a second, I smile. Would you trick us? What do you mean, trick you? I shake it again, tilt it some more. The object hits some sides, but not all sides. Did you tape it or tie it or something? His eyes widen quick and he smiles, and then he laughs. He laughs loud, bending over and resting his hands on his knees, and then he swings his head to the side to look over at me. By this time, the whole class is watching him. Wow, Allie Nickerson, that's amazing. I have done this with over 100 kids, and no one in all of those times has ever been able to figure that out. He reaches over and takes the box. Taking the elastic bands off, he opens the box to show us all what's inside. It's 2 glue sticks tied together with string. And then the ends of the string are taped to the sides of the box, leaving the glue sticks hanging in the middle. He comes over and does something a teacher has never done even once in my whole life. He high-fives me. Chapter 15. Ungreased Gears. For homework, Mr. Daniels said we have to write a paper describing how we feel about a short story he read today. He says there's no right or wrong answer. He just wants to know our thoughts. Part of my brain knows that this shouldn't be that hard. I would be able to tell him in 2 minutes how I feel about it. But I'll be celebrating another birthday by the time I get it written down. And when I do, he probably won't be able to understand it anyway. Travis comes in the back door, drops his bag, and takes off his steel-toed boots. Hey, Squirt. The smell of a garage fills the kitchen, but I like it. Hey, I say, trying to get the thoughts floating around in my head to land on the paper. I don't know why the things in my brain get lost on the way down my arm. Travis takes a carton of orange juice out of the fridge and drinks from it. Hello, Travis. Gross. He laughs at me. No one else will drink that now, you know. Good, he smiles. My plan is a success. He walks away, taking the whole carton with him. Travis? He stops in the hallway after taking another swig. Yeah? I know what his answer will be, but I ask anyway. I'm desperate. Can you help me? With that book stuff you're doing? He points, using the carton. Yeah, I have to write something. Whoa, Allie. I can give you new spark plugs, change your oil, even rebuild your carburetor. But the writing? No can do. When it comes to that, my brain is like gears with no grease, parts grinding together. Seriously, it ain't pretty. Please, you have to be better at it than me. He takes a deep breath. Can you wait until Mom gets home? She left a message saying she's closing, and I can't tell her I need help that late. She'll be mad. Look, you know I'd love to help you out, but the whole school thing, it's like asking a blind man to drive a bus. Besides, he says, sipping again, I'd rather eat a bag of hair. He's trying to make me laugh, and the picture in my head is funny and kind of gross, but I can't laugh. I can't. I'm too desperate. I must look sad because his voice is sweet. Seriously, Al, I would help you, but I'm no better at it than you. I'm really not. The next morning, I'm trying to decide if I should turn in my paper, knowing Mr. Daniels will probably think I spit it out in 2 minutes. The truth is that it cost me my whole night and a headache that was so bad it reminded me of the Queen in Alice in Wonderland always yelling, "Off with our head!" just because I thought that would be a relief. I worry what Mr. Daniels will say about it. For now, he's in the hallway with another kid. Good morning, Keisha says. I have something for you. And she holds out a cupcake. Cupcake, Max says. Put your eyes back in your head, Max. This is not for you, Keisha says. Me want cupcake, Oliver says, flailing about a bit. Me love cupcakes. You're such a freak, Shay says. That's Cookie Monster who talks like that. Oliver gets dead serious. Not a single thing on him is moving except his mouth. If I'm talking like that, then I'm the one talking like that. And besides, do you really think that Cookie Monster would turn down a cupcake? I mean, it isn't broccoli or nuclear sludge or something. You could tell him it's a big, tall cookie with frosting on it. He'd suck it down like a vacuum cleaner. I bet you he would. You want to bet me? Do you? Jessica begins to speak, but Shay cuts her off with a look. No, I won't bet you. I don't bet on anything, ever, and especially not with you. Shay spins on her foot and leaves. Jessica scurries after her. It takes 3/4 of a second for Oliver to be on to something else. Wait, that reminds me, he says. During our class party, I hid a Halloween cookie somewhere in my desk. The Halloween party? Keisha asks. That was weeks ago. Yeah! He starts digging for it, things falling to the floor as he searches. If it's there, it's probably as hard as concrete. Keisha turns back to me. What is it with this class? They lose control over food. She shakes her head and then pushes the cupcake toward me. For you. For me? I ask. Nobody ever brings me anything except trouble. Yeah, of course it's for you. Why? Because I'm still cracking up over what you did with those flowers, that's why. She cuts the cupcake in half and shows me that it says wow inside. I'm happy. Mr. Daniels walks back into the room. Okay, my Fantasticos, good news. All homework assignments have been passed in today. That's worth 5 extra minutes of snack time. The boys are as excited as if they've heard there would be free pizza delivered too. I heard Keisha kind of laughing to herself. I figure it's because of the boys all going nuts, but then she turns to me and says, You've got guts, Allie. I respect that. I like that too, but mostly, I like that she likes it. Hey, she says, do you want to sit together at lunch? I've been sitting with some people, but I don't talk to them and they don't talk to me. And you sit alone, so... A mind movie shows us sitting at the table, talking, and me being happy. Allie, what do you think? Oh, yes, that would be great. Thank you. After the best lunch and recess I've had in a long time, Mr. Daniels waves me up to his desk. He has my homework and my journal. He's trying to look all happy and light, but I can see the seriousness underneath. Hey, Allie. I'm glad you turned in your homework, and it's more than you usually write. That's great. I stay quiet. I'm just wondering how long it took you to do your homework. I'm not going to ask you to make changes or anything. I'm just wondering. This feels like a trap. I know it isn't good, so I wonder if it would be better to say I did it fast on the bus, or if I should tell him that I worked really hard. Allie? It took me kind of a long time, I guess. I mean, I tried to do my best on it. I look at it. Is it wrong? It's got some good ideas, and that's what the assignment was all about. No worries, okay? No worries? That's easy for him to say. Chapter 16. What I've Got. I like Mr. Daniels, but he's got a thing for reading, always talking about books and how great they are. Personally, I'd rather have the flu. The last thing Mr. Daniels said yesterday was that we were going to write stories today, and that it would be our chance to show him what we've got. The only thing I've got is a plan. With a big piece of cloth and a safety pin, my writing arm hangs in a sling. How can he ask me to write like this? I'm feeling pretty proud, I must admit. All I have to do is remember not to move it. I wish it really did hurt. It would be easier. He sees me when I walk in, and it isn't long before he comes over to ask me what has happened. I have practiced the story all the way to school, about how I tripped over my cat on the stairs and fell. You have a cat? He asks. Yeah. He nods. Then he glances down at my sling. Is it a new cat? No, we've had that cat forever. A regular member of the family, I say, feeling like I'm starring in a commercial for something I'd never eat in a million years. He has a weird look on his face when he asks, What's its name? Whose name? Your cat. I panic. Pork Chop, comes out of my mouth. He laughs. Pork Chop the cat, huh? I bet the dogs in the neighborhood like that. I'm nervous and embarrassed, wondering why I have to be so weird, wondering why I now have to watch the mind movie in my head of a furry, meowing pork chop with a tail. But when the rest of the class sits down to do their writing assignments, he says I can read a book. I stare at the letters and watch them dance and move on the bright white page. My eyes ache and my head hurts. Mr. Daniels watches me, so I look down at the page and remember to turn it every once in a while. With my eyes closed, I watch bright movies of me flying. One of my favorite movies. In this one, I'm flying just above the water, my stomach almost touching it, racing toward a castle filled with blue light. I open my eyes a bit to watch the others write. I look at the page again. I even try to read some. I really do. But I can't help wondering why Mr. Daniels keeps looking over at me. Chapter 17. Misfit Lunch. I watch Albert sit at his desk and stare at the pages of a book. I know he's not reading. His eyes don't move at all. I see he has a new bruise on his jaw and decide I'll go over and talk to him. Hey, I say. He looks up. Then something comes out of my mouth that I don't expect. Do you want to sit with Keisha and me at lunch? Why? Well, you sit alone and we sit alone, but together too, so I thought that we could all sit alone together. That isn't a logical conclusion. Clearly, if we are all together... Yeah, I interrupt. I know. It was a joke. So, you want to? Well, I suppose so. I guess I've got to eat somewhere, he says. Albert leans his chair back as he shakes his empty carton of chocolate milk to let the drops fall on his tongue. I wonder who decided that a half pint of milk was enough. Why don't you just buy 2? He puts his chair down and stares. Can't you just ask your mom for extra money in the morning? I say, readjusting my fake sling. This thing is a pain. I don't have to ask for money. It's kind of prepaid. And then I realize all at once. Of course. How stupid can I possibly be? Albert doesn't have many clothes, and he gets a ticket from Mr. Daniels every morning. I guess I never thought about it before. He must get one of the free lunches. I hope I didn't upset him, so I say, I'm sorry. About what? Well, that you get the free lunch. He shrugs. There are worse things. Than a free lunch, I mean. Yeah, I guess. It disturbs my mom, but my dad says he wants to leave his mark on mankind with one of his inventions, and she says he should get a real job. They fight about it a lot, actually. I'm really surprised he told me that, and I decide to never tell another soul about it. Hey, says Keisha, sitting down. Hey, I say, and Albert nods. So, Albert, Keisha says, I watch Star Trek because you're always spouting off about it. The special effects are not that special. Kind of pathetic, actually. Looks like a first-grade puppet show. Albert looks horrified. Keisha laughs as she unwraps her sandwich. Yeah, I knew that would get you. Shay's voice arrives before she does. Look, Jessica, she says as they walk by. It's the island of misfit toys. Yeah, Jessica says. It's like a six-legged freak. Shay laughs and Jessica looks proud of herself. Those girls are like walking pricker bushes, Keisha says, taking a bite of her sandwich. Don't let them bother you. They don't bother me, Albert says. It doesn't bother you at all that she called us misfit toys? I ask. It doesn't bother me, Keisha says. That girl can flap her gums about me until the sun rises and sets again. I really don't care. I wish I didn't care, and I wish I wasn't jealous of Shay and all that she has. Albert is wide-eyed. But why are the toys all misfits? Square wheels on a train can be fixed easily enough. Albert has his most serious voice turned up to high. And what's wrong with the doll anyway? Why is it a misfit? It seems to adhere to the standards of a typical doll. Wow, he is in full professor mode. The Charlie in the box, he continues, is just like a Jack-in-the-Box in every way but his name. Something is not a misfit simply because it has a different name. That isn't true, I blurt out. He looks shocked. I suppose he isn't used to being corrected. He holds up his milk carton. Suppose I say this is orange juice. Doesn't change what it is inside. That's different, I say, thinking that the milk will feel like it's orange juice if it's told that enough. It is the same principle. I think of words like dumb and baby and think how wrong Albert really is. What about the cowboy? Keisha asks. He rides an ostrich instead of a horse. That has got to make him a misfit. It is illogical to say that he is a misfit just because he chooses to ride a different animal, provided he can carry out his cowboy duties. Albert, Keisha says, how can you possibly say cowboy duties with a straight face? I don't understand, he says. Keisha's forehead touches the table and he continues. Especially when you consider that ostriches run faster than horses, require less water to drink, and can use their legs and feet as weapons. They are fierce kickers with sharp claws. I, for one, would trade a horse for that. That's just logical. And then I think that if someone hung a sign on me that said anything, having that sign there wouldn't make it so. But people have been calling me slow forever, right in front of me, as if I'm too dumb to know what they're talking about. People act like the word slow reader tell them everything that's inside. Like I'm a can of soup and they can just read the list of ingredients and know everything about me. There's lots of stuff about the soup inside that they can't put on the label, like how it smells or tastes and makes you feel warm when you eat it. There's got to be more to me than just a kid who can't read well.